Well, Mike Huckabee had this pearl of wisdom about freedom. Let's watch this. You will not quickly forget this thought.
My gosh, I'm beginning to think that there's more freedom in North Korea sometimes than there is in the United States. When I go to the airport, I have to get in the surrender position. People put hands all over me. And I have to provide photo ID in a couple of different forms and prove that I really am not going to terrorize the airplane. But if I vote, I don't need a thing.
You know, I know Dennis Rodman's got a competitor here. He's saying it's better than North Korea. I'm sure Kim Jong-un is probably thrilled to hear this. This is wacky. Yeah, this kind of performance. Are they trying to drive away the center in the middle of the road from their party with this
well, I don't
clangering mess?
I don't think at this point, if ever, they really care about the middle of the road. I mean, these are people up in New Hampshire, and they're doing the same in other early primary states for 2016, of appealing to the very heart of the very most active ultra-conservatives they can find. These are the people they need to line up for the campaign, and they don't mind if this is broadcast to the rest of the Republican Party and the rest of the world. This is who they are. They're proud of it, and the Republican wise men whom I talk to around here are scared out of their wits.
By this talk?
By this talk. I was talking to one of the leading fundraisers in the Republican Party today, and he's no liberal, he's a conservative. These people scare him, not only because of their ideology, but because of their demographics. These are people who don't seem to know how to appeal beyond the traditional white male base of the Republican Party, and you can't win an election that way.
Yeah, you know, I think that Jeb Bush will have to explain further, you know, active love crossing the border. That's a hard reach for some people. But making fun of it the way he did it also told another story.
Oh, no.
This is putting down Hispanics. This is like, this was a put down. And anybody a minority watching Donald Trump gets it because he's the guy pushing the birther line from day one. The message ethnically is pretty damn clear to black and brown people. This guy's not looking out for your interests politically.
The gravitational center of the Republican Party shifted far to the right, you know, 10, 8, 6 years ago, and it is stuck in that position. This is why all the talk about Chris Christie being a front runner, Jeb Bush having a good chance, really is irrelevant, because these are the voters they're going to have to get. Now, it's interesting that Paul Ryan is not in this run-up here, because I think he's one of the few out there who can appeal to the Tea Party base and have a foot in the establishment camp.
But he's not running.
Well, probably not. But by and large, it's a very, very sharp divide between reality and this bizarre world.
Let me ask you my profound question at the end of the show, because I bring it up in my last comment. What's the cause and effect here? Everybody who watches this kind of program, especially this program, Hardball, knows that Hillary Clinton is an extremely heavy favorite, should she choose to run, to be the next Democratic nominee. So she'll be very hard to beat because of her track record, her resume, who she is, what she means to women especially, and because she's a good Democrat. Are they thinking, hey, we're not going to beat her, so let's have some fun. Let's go crazy. Or are they thinking, the country's willing to go all the way to the right to beat Hillary Clinton?
No,
what are they thinking? Which of the two?
I think the people who spoke up in New Hampshire last weekend really believe what they believe. They really believe that the country is ready for a clarion call to reject government, essentially.
Get rid of the TSA. We don't want any sex at the airport.
No TSA, no IRS,
no health care.
They really believe that. I give them credit for believing it. But
do they want to get on a plane with nobody checking them?
Well, of course not. And they don't want to abolish the IRS either, because they're going to...
You say they really believe it. Which is it?
Well, no, I think they really do believe it, but the problem they've got is that philosophy, which they're also pursuing in the U.S. Senate under Mitch McConnell, where they're rejecting all action on everything, is not the kind of method that you need to win a presidential election. I don't think.
Let me disagree a tiny bit. I think there is a degree of hucksterism here. You know, I think that some of them are playing to the base, that they don't believe that this is...
Give me an example of hucksterism, because I can think of one right now. Ted Cruz getting rid of the IRS means to some people no more tax.
Right. Well, and but also the whole point of that liberty is under siege in this country, that Barack Obama is totally incompetent, the guy who got Osama bin Laden, the guy who saved Detroit. I mean, all this stuff that Newt Gingrich, who claims to be an historian, has to understand if he says he's as smart as he says he is, that Barack Obama has indeed achieved a few big things. But yet he gets up there with a straight face and says that the guy's a doofus. Yeah. He has to know better, but it doesn't matter because that doesn't
David,
play the
I'll grant you that maybe Newt knows better, but I'm not sure. And who knows about Donald Trump? If you want to talk about hucksterism, there it is. That is hucksterism personified. But I do think the others. I do actually think that Ted Cruz and Rand Paul and Mike Huckabee very much have
By the way, who
into...
crossed the border for sex, by the way? Only Donald Trump can say something like that. I know it's a great line, but I guess it was, but he always deals with the dirty, dark part of the mind. Anyway, Casey Hunt of NBC was at the summit and said that Rand Paul had the most enthusiastic response with the crowd up there. Part of his message was about the need to expand the appeal of the party. Smart enough. He called for ending corporate welfare. Now, this took some stones to talk like that in this crowd, but let's watch.
Rich companies don't need your money, and it's an insult to those among us that we say we don't have enough money for these other programs, but we've got enough money for our rich friends. If you want to be consistent, if you want to grow the movement, we cannot be the party of fat cats, rich people, and Wall Street.
And there was Americans for Prosperity, paid for by the Koch brothers right behind him. That's brought to you by, anyway. And here's what Senator Paul said about reaching out to the African-American community. Here he is.
Parts of our message has to reach out to people who we haven't been hitting, who haven't been listening. The door's not going to open up to the African-American community or the Hispanic community until we have something to offer. If you look at the war on drugs, 3 out of 4 people in prison are black or brown. But your kids and grandkids aren't perfect either. The police don't come to your neighborhoods. You get a better lawyer. These are some injustices. People have been concerned about injustice. We've got to be concerned about people who may not be part of our group here, may not be here today, if we want to grow our message, if we want to grow our movement.
Who let him in the door?
Okay.
That was reasonable. Better lawyer, we all know that. Rich people get better lawyers. They got a better chance of skipping town on any charge.
I've covered Rand Paul, from the beginning. And I think on civil liberties issues, it's the real deal.
But there's no crowd reaction?
No. Because most of those people up there are not libertarians. That's not going to win him the nomination.
They're for the lock-em-up crowd.
They're the lock-em-up crowd, not the libertarian crowd. On corporate America, I think he knows better, Rand Paul. It sounds good. I'm waiting to see a Republican really take on corporate America. If it happens for the interests of working people, as Teddy Roosevelt did 100 years ago, more power.
Will they close their checkbooks on him?
More power.
Americans' prosperity. The Koch brothers going to support closing tax loopholes.
If he starts continuing on that path, listen, he's also in favor of bringing taxes down to 10% and slashing every program that affects a low-income American. So he finds what he can to talk about, but it really is not a full case.
In terms of thinking. He shows he's thinking. Anyway, Jeb Bush wasn't at the summit, but in a way his presence was felt. Several speakers, including Ted Cruz, got some of the biggest applause lines by opposing what's called the Common Core educational initiative that Bush has championed. Too much federal involvement, they believe. And here's Cruz taking on Jeb. He wasn't there.
You look at the 10th Amendment with the federal government trying to intrude into the prerogatives of the states all across the board, things like to set educational standards. Let me tell you right now, we need to repeal Common Core.
There's a yeah aspect to that guy. I don't think it's going to sell. Your thoughts? What about Common Core?
Well, that is a touchstone now on the right. It's, you have to be against it because it symbolizes big government. It symbolizes the culture war that they're still fighting that's 20, 30 years old. Some people link it to black helicopters and all sorts of crazy conspiracy theories. Wow. And so, it just shows you between immigration, Common Core, Jeb Bush goes out there and he's walking into a shredder. And is he the type of candidate who can get through this? He's going to look as bad as Mitt Romney.
I was told that he was at a sort of tryout performance for some big donors the other week, Jeb Bush recently. And I asked one of the guys who was there, I said, did he really was he really in it? Is he really in it? And this guy said, no, he didn't do a good job of faking it. I think Jeb Bush knows exactly what David says, which is he'll walk into that shredder, and it's not his party anymore.
No.
It just is not.
It's a good thing we're learning all this. We're learning